What's up, gamers? I'm bringing you my 2024 Tellarknight deck profile. I'll go over the card by card and give you my thoughts on the deck's capabilities. It's a non-linear combination of extenders that all play off each other with no concrete start point. This list is playing 45 cards, 12 of which are non-engine hand interaction type cards. Playing more than 40 allows us to add additional pieces of non-engine and minimizes our chance of drawing the few bricks that we do have in the deck. The non-engine is likely not optimal, but was some of the most generically applicable options that I have. Non-engine is something that can easily shift from format to format and not our main focus of this deck. So, as such, I will get started with the non-engine of the deck, starting with Triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This card is one of our best Mulcharmy counters. Both Perulia and Fuoras are going to be issues for this deck in various manners, and this is one of the best cards to deal with it. It also just trades 1-for-1 with a lot of modern decks and is a all-around strong card. Next up, we have Triple Effect Failure. This is a non-once-per-turn targeted monster effect negation that will allow us to stop specific, particularly dangerous monster effects that our opponents have on their turn. A similar, probably better variant of the card is Infinite Impermanence, which I'm also playing 3 of here. This card is very similar, except you can also use it going second to stop your opponent's cards and set it going first, so it has a little bit more versatility. Then we have Nibiru at 2, very strong card, searchable in this deck. I will show you how to do that later, and is kind of one of the best hand traps of the format if you pair it in conjunction with something like Infinite Impermanence or Effect Failure in order to beat that opponent's monster negate. It can just end turns. And finally, we have Called by the Grave, similar function to our Ash Blossom in that it will allow us to help counter the Mulcharmies, and it will help us protect our combos at very important choke points against things like Ash Blossom or Droll and Lockbird, which can just sort of end your turn. That is it for our non-engine. We're playing 12 right now. This should probably be closer to 15 or 16 to be optimal, but we don't exactly have room for that in this variant of the deck. Next up, we have the Tellar core of the deck. Starting off with 3 Deneb. This is the ROTA of the deck. It just searches any Tellarknight monster, and is one of the best cards in the deck in order to get you whatever you need to continue your plays. Then we have Triple Tellarknight Lyran. This allows you to search the Constellar Tellarknight's continuous spell. This is probably one of the most important extenders and searchers of the deck. It summons itself whenever you normal summon a Tellarknight, so something like Deneb turns into 2 searches if you also have a Lyran in the hand. And you'll see the continuous spell is one of the most important cards in the deck. Speaking of, we have Triple Constellar Tellarknights. This card lets you special summon a Tellarknight or Constellar from your hand or graveyard, which is crucial to extending your plays. And then it will also allow you to rank up or down a Constellar or Tellarknight Xyz monster, which is very important in the combos of this deck. Next up is our one-ofs. We have 1 Alteran. This guy on summon is a Monster Reborn for Tellarknights. We have Unukalai, who is a Foolish Burial on summon. We have Vega, who summons another Tellarknight from hand when it's summoned. And we have Alteran, which is a retrain of Altair. It summons itself from the graveyard when a Tellarknight is summoned, and then it can pop cards on the field up to the number of Tellarknight or Light and Dark Xyz monsters you control. So it acts as both extension and disruption and is all around a very useful card to have. Finally, we have Skybridge. This allows us to tag out a Tellarknight monster and effectively dodge things like Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler, allowing our effects to resolve, pulling 1 from deck, and triggering new names. And then finally, we have Triple Constellar Caduceus. This is not a Tellarknight card, but it is a Tellar Constellar card that pairs well with the deck in the current format. It allows you to special summon itself if you have a Constellar monster on the field, except for itself. And then once per turn, you can search a Constellar trap, which is the Constellar Tellarknights. We are playing effectively 9 copies of the Constellar Tellarknights between Lyran, Constellar Tellarknights itself, and Caduceus. This is because the Constellar Tellarknights is the central focal point of the deck and something that you want to ensure you can resolve. There are probably a ton of different ways that you can optimize the list in order to ensure that, but I haven't really explored that too deep yet. Next up is one of my favorite packages in the deck, and the thing that I think makes it the most interesting is the Centurion package. We'll start with triple stand-up Centurion. This is your main access to the package. By discarding a card, you can special summon, or you can place a Centurion card in your back row, which you can then use to summon itself for an extra body, and it enables quite a bit. Typically, the one that you'll be placing is Trudea. Trudea will then special summon itself, and then you'll use Trudea to put itself back in the back row along with Primera, so that you can then summon Primera using her own effect in order to search one of these 2 cards, Phalanx or True Awakening. Phalanx is just a very generically good card that you can use without anything in the back row. True Awakening is slightly better. If you have a spell trap or if you have a monster card in your spell and trap card zone, you can use True Awakening to send it to the graveyard, and it's an Omni Negate at that point. Phalanx is kind of like an SP Little Knight effect, but it doesn't have as much setup required to function, so it's much better if you just draw the Phalanx. And then that is it for the Centurion package. Next up, we have just our generic cards. We have our 1 card rank 4, Aratama. Aratama will let you search Sakutama, which is a free extender that summons a spirit from hand. And these 2 paired will let you go into Caduceus in order to fuel your plays, or you can just use them to extend into more generic rank 4s. Now for our armored package, we have Armored Exy and Full Armored Exy. These cards are very crucial because you need to search 2 in order to utilize a package in this deck. I haven't found a really effective way to get it down to 1 consistently, so using these is very nice. And Armored Exy has some neat synergies with Delteros, meaning that this card actually has more functionality in this deck than it does in other decks that play the Armored package. Now for our one-ofs, we have 1 Terraforming in order to search the Centurion field spell. We have ROTA to search any of your Tellarknight monsters. And finally, we have something that we play for Silhouette Rabbit, Apophis the Swamp Deity. This card is effectively a Omni Negate for a face-up card on the field, and it is very powerful, especially if you pair it with Silhouette Rabbit to gain extra pops, but it can just be used as a standalone card. To go into the extra deck, we have 2 Constellar, or Tellarknight Constellar Caduceus. This is the primary midpoint of your combo. You summon this guy, and he can add a Tellarknight or Constellar card from your graveyard to your hand, allowing you to pitch something off of the stand-up Centurion in order to add it back and use it again later. And then you can detach an Xyz material, banish 1 Tellarknight from your deck, and then his effect becomes the on-summon effect of that Tellarknight. So you could overlay into him, banish a Deneb from your deck, and then that would then trigger the Deneb effect, allowing you to add a card from your deck to your hand. And it is considered his own effect, so it gets around once per turn sort of clauses like that, where if you have multiple copies of something like the Deneb, you can then use Caduceus to search twice with your Deneb effect. Next up, we have the primary rank up for him is Constellar Ptolemy M7. This guy you can just slap on top of a Constellar Exy monster, and then he doesn't really do anything on his own, Ptolemy is mainly a midpoint for you to go up or down with using your Constellar Tellarknights continuous. The last Constellar specific Xe monster we have is Pleiades. This is one of the options to go into using the rank up or down effect. This is just a bounce that you can use on your opponent's turn and act as potential disruption. The primary play that you're going to go for is after using the Ptolemy M7, you can then rank it down into Tellarknight Ptolemaeus, which you then detach the 3 materials, the 2 that were attached, or 1 attached to Caduceus, that got then turned into M7's material, that then got turned into Ptolemaeus' material, meaning that you can trigger Ptolemaeus, or activate its effect, I should say, at any point in time. To go into Cyber Dragon Nova, which then ranks up into Cyber Dragon Infinity, which is one of the main power plays of this deck. It is just an Omni Negate that you can do right off the bat without really needing to worry about what your opponent has. For the rest of the Tellarknight core, we have Dark Tellarknight Battlemaius. This allows you to rank up into Tellarknight Constellar Diamond as the last play for your turn. This is a bit of a floodgate and negates dark monsters that your opponent controls. So you can special summon this if you're playing against something that mills a lot, or if you are against a dark deck. It's just another negate. Then we have Delteros. He's something that you can rank up or down into, or even hard summon, as he only requires 3 level 4 monsters. And then when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, it summons a Tellarknight from deck, meaning that you can use this with something like Silhouette Rabbit to send Delteros to the grave in order to special summon something from your deck, trigger the new name, or you can even use Armored Xe in order to equip it from the graveyard and trigger it a second time. If you've used it for Silhouette Rabbit, re-equip it, special summon something new from the deck when you overlay into something like Gallant Granite, for example, off of the monster that you summon or re-equipped the Armored Xe to. The last Tellarknight that we have is Trevere. He's just kind of a last opportunity board bounce that you can use to then rip a card out of the opponent's hand. He used to be the main bread and butter of this deck. Nowadays, not so much. Going into the final aspect of the extra deck, we have my preferred armored package of extra deck cards. This variant of the deck doesn't use the rank 3, so you need a rank 4 that you can detach 1 material off of to gain some type of benefit in order to rank up into the Armored Fortress. So we have Gallant Granite here. He searches Nibiru. I thought that was the most effective payoff for a detaching of an Xe material at this point in time that I have found. Then you have Armored Fortress. He searches both full Armored Xe and Armored Xe. And then you have full Armored Dark Knight Lancer. Dark Knight Lancer is just a non-targeted equip as Xyz's material if something is equipped to him, and that's pretty easy to trigger. So, for example, if we have like an Aritama Sakitama combo, and we're just going for the Gallant Granite line, we go Aritama, search Sakitama, Sakitama effect to summon itself, overlay into Gallant Granite, Gallant Granite detach 1 in order to search. We'll pretend this is Nibiru, I don't want to dig around for it. And then we can overlay into Armored Xe Fortress, detach 2 in order to search Armored Xe and full Armored Xe. And we need to search 2 because as long as he has material, he cannot be used as Xyz's material himself. So if you want to rank up into Dark Knight Lancer, which you really do want to do in this deck, you need to search 2. And that's why I chose Gallant Granite. Another option is something like Daigusto Emerald, but then you run the risk of drawing into one of these and you still have a dead hand. Searching Nibiru is kind of like the nuclear option. It is your last line of defense, but it is a disruption that you can search from your deck. That is my Tellarknight deck. I'll hopefully bring you an updated version with slightly different ratios at some point after I take this deck to locals a couple times. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down below, and good luck, gamers.